From that storm forward, I am forever changed. People were hungry, and they were cold. There was no power. And so my restaurant opened, and immediately we had coffee on, we had food ready. And for the next weeks, we were in that same mindset of heeding the call.
Hurricane Helene caused catastrophic flooding, as we saw on television sets around the world, mudslides, and damaged hundreds of homes. A storm like that had not ever been seen in the Northwest North Carolina area. In the midst of a devastating disaster, something truly beautiful began to bloom. Allexia Brewer is a resident of Blowing Rock, North Carolina, a local business owner, and a member of the Saints Peter and Paul Orthodox Church. She answered the call to serve, and Greeks for Good was created. This is a story of faith, of resilience, and a deep commitment to lifting up those who are in need. Welcome. Nice to see you today.
Thank you so much. I'm very emotional because I've never heard somebody say it back to me. So it's
Sure.
beautiful to hear.
Can you share, and I know it may be painful, some of the experience during Hurricane Helene, how it shaped your perspective on faith, how it affected you and the community?
Well, I will say that from that storm forward, I am forever changed, as most people here are. From the day it happened, the next morning, luckily my restaurant was intact. And so we immediately went into crisis mode. People were showing up. They had been up all night trying to save friends, families, their homes, their cattle, their livestock, their pets, their animals, helping neighbors. And people were hungry and they were cold. There was no power. And so my restaurant opened, and immediately we had coffee on, we had food ready. And this started at 8:30 in the morning when we don't even open until 11 o'clock. And for the next weeks, we were in that same mindset of heeding the call. You know, the linemen were brought in from all over the United States to patch together poles that were gone. Some were barely standing, some were gone. They needed meals. Restaurants in their areas were not there. And so the restaurants that were standing had to serve and make food for the hungry. And I think that it does really call all of our faith into action when something like this happens. And you said it so wonderfully. A friend of mine said to me, something will bloom from this. I was in despair. I thought we were going to lose our businesses. I didn't know what was going to happen. And your faith really is what pulls you through.
So let me get this straight. Your business was done with, and your goal was to feed people. Is that correct?
So many people that come to the western part of our state of North Carolina, these are your quintessential mountain towns. These are the Norman Rockwell paintings. If you watch Hallmark movies, these are the towns you see in the Hallmark movies. They're quaint, they're beautiful, so everybody comes here. Well, October in the mountains of North Carolina is such a big revenue month for businesses that many businesses rely on it to carry them through the winter. So we're talking enough revenue to carry a business for 6 months. Well, that was gone. So I didn't have I did panic because I thought, what are we going to do? How are we going to live? How are we going to do? But the need was so great that I thought, okay, we'll worry about that afterwards. Feed the people. The people are hungry. Feed the people. And that's what we did and continue to do.
And that's how Greeks for Good became a reality? Tell us
So,
about that title. What happened there?
yes. So I was receiving personal donations from all over the country, sorority sisters, college friends, old neighbors, churches, everybody. And I thought, okay, this is great. And it helped us in that kind of initial push of being able to say, okay, we need food. Sadly, your food reps are not able to really discount much of they just were not able to donate food. I was not a non-for-profit, so I was a for-profit business. The number one reason that I started it was because in the midst of that, people were saying we need blankets, for example. And I would go online and say, okay, I'm going to write LL Bean and get a donation of blankets. And they would say, I'm sorry, we don't give to individuals. We only give to 501 other nonprofits, or Target, or anywhere. And I thought, okay, well, if I have to be a 501 to receive donations, I got online, and Greeks for Good was born. And it also, the donations were so consistently coming. I thought, well, it's a more formal, professional, and transparent way for me to put those donations to use. And that's how it was born.
Can you recall a situation, a family, a person who you served a meal to, and how that affected their lives? Because I'm sure you came into contact with people you know and people that, like you said, didn't know, first responders. Can you relate to us maybe one experience like that?
So in the beginning, the meals went out, we dropped and left. So at one particular community, the sheriff met us and he said, "We're going to put the food in the car." And I said, "Well, where's the food going?"
Hmm.
And he kind of waves up to the woods. He kind of points, and I'm looking, and he goes, "It's all people back there." And so we didn't really have contact then with who received until Thanksgiving Day.
No.
We served 400 people on Thanksgiving Day through donations at our restaurant. Makes me very emotional because that is where I saw it. Where this one particular woman came in and she had a hood on, a hoodie. She had her head down. You could see that people's whole constitution washed away with everything they owned. She was so down, and she could barely look at me, and she was crying. She was just crying. And she said, "Thank you for being here. Thank you so much." And I heard it all day on Thanksgiving Day. I told my family, I said, "I will never, ever spend another Thanksgiving any other way than doing what we did. That's it for me. That was my honor. It was so much appreciated. I received thanks. I received, do you need anything?" And I thought, do I need anything?
Well,
So that is what I would say, my first real contact, direct contact.
no, that's beautiful. As you did it to one of these, the least of my goodness, you live the gospel through that. This nonprofit that you speak of now, it does so much more than just hurricane relief. Tell us a little bit about the Ambrosia Arcade Birthday Project. What is that?
I have always felt so blessed to be part of the Orthodox Church, in that our church plays on and touches all of the senses. It takes us to a place where we see, where we hear, where there's music, where there's smell, where there's fragrance, where there's community, where there's people. And I think that this mission, as I've now had a chance to kind of settle down a little bit, is taking on this holistic approach to feeding and nourishing people. And so we own an arcade. And what started happening was people were calling us and saying, or posting, "My child has a birthday. I have no money. I have no house. I'm in a hotel room. I'm in a camper. I'm staying in my sister's house. I want to have a birthday." And we know in the United States, birthdays are a big deal. I mean, this is a big deal. It's a big deal for a child. So to look at a child and say, "Well, we have nothing, and sorry, you can't have your birthday," not only is hard on the child, but it is really difficult for the parent. And so we thought about it, and I thought, if we could get sponsorships and be able to offer those families a chance to have their child's birthday, not only are we helping the child, we're helping the family, we're raising the spirit. And that's how Ambrosia Birthday Party was started, our Ambrosia Arcade Birthday Project. And we are able to give 4 from the month of November. It's a little bit of we had to pull out of a lot of stuff. And birthdays are booking now into December. And so for every one we book, our goal is to donate one to a needy child. And that's how that was born.
When you start nonprofits, you can come up against some walls, I know, and some hurdles you got to go over. Let's talk about your faith and how did that help you overcome them?
So in the beginning, it was a matter of finding the domain, finding the name, paying the fees, and getting the paperwork. Today, what you just asked me about hit me when we spoke to a CPA who is a nonprofit CPA. And I literally crumbled. I was sitting there thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I heard God say, you have to do this. And then I said, I don't want to do it. I don't want to have to worry about all that. I don't want to have to deal with form 990, whatever he said.
Yeah.
But it was my faith that said, you know, you better get your act together, little lady, and you better pull up your bootstraps. We have work to do. And I came out of it. I just came out of it. I thought, I can handle it.
Mhm.
But it's not easy, or else everybody would do it. People are astounded at me. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but people are like, you started a 501c3? Well, yeah, had to have donations. How are we going to get donations if what, I have to? So I do think yeah, I think God is with me every step of the way. And you do go down. I mean, we're human, you panic and you get overwhelmed. And I
Yep.
threw a little bit of a temper tantrum with my husband, and then I came out of it, and it's going to be okay.
Well, look at you. That's great. How about the impact your organization has had on the community? And let's talk about, I know you want us to get on a little bit, but let's talk about the expansion, the reach into the future as your final question.
Um, we have, since we opened our Greek cafe here, had a lot of attention, but nowhere near the attention that we've gotten from this little 501c3 that is doing good in our community. I think the food does as well, but people are really saying, wow, from all over the country. Like, they're like, okay, we're going to lock arms with you. Because I do think in the middle of a crisis, it's hard to know where to support. It's hard to know who to support. And it's hard to know what kind of support you're supposed to give. So it is nice when people see a local person that they see every day say, I'm raising a donation for a Christmas dinner. And they're like, okay, here's a check. They know you, they trust you, they see it, and they see it in action. So it has really impacted the community. And I hope that it continues to impact the community, because this is definitely not something temporary. I see this for the future. My goal, have you been to the Diaconia Center?
Sure have.
I want to put a mini one here in the mountains of North Carolina, a place of restoration and peace and beauty that speaks to our Orthodox faith and my culture, that brings kids in that perhaps, again, maybe have never had this type of educational opportunity, something beautiful that raises the spirit. And that is really my long-term vision for this mission. And through that, to continue serving those in crisis. And let me say this too. There was tremendous crisis here before Helene. The mountains tend to be very, very, people here live in the hollers. That's what they call it. You live in the hollers. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. We don't have hollers. We have neighborhoods. But in the mountains, it's the hollers, and they're the places you don't see. These people live on generational land. They live up where they are, there's neighbors, but they kind of keep to themselves. And there's a lot of lack of resources, and the poverty here would astound you. And so, compounded with Helene, there's a lot of work to do that I see doing pretty much as long as God lets me do it. So that's my long-term vision.
Allexia, I know I said that was the final question, but I do have another final question. This work is wonderful. I believe it's God blessed. I don't think you're doing this alone. I believe the hand of God is there. And I'm wondering if people could help you, if there are people out there who hear this program, who say, I really want to help. Can you give us some direction? Can you help us to allow people the opportunity to give?
I set up a account with a company called Zeffy, Zeffy. It is a fundraising platform where they can go and make a donation directly there. That money is not, there's no service charges attached to that money, which is hard to find. So they can make their donation there. And that seems to be the easiest thing. And they can make it from anywhere in the world.
And that would go into the 501c3, correct?
That goes directly into that business account and stays separate out of everything else. And the next big thing is going to be the Christmas dinner. That's going to be a biggie. So that's how you would make a donation, or you could also write a check too, and we can include that information as well.
Very good. Allexia, it's a pleasure and an honor to speak with you. Our
Thank you.
prayers are with you. We would ask our listeners around the world that if you've got that giving spirit, now is the time to do it, to help a really good cause that not only seeks out those who have a need, but actually gives to them. God bless you.
Thank you so much.